And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Okay, starting off the marine segment here with look out west, solid clouds out here from the Pribilof Islands, Nikolsky westward. That's associated with the next pretty potent storm here coming with the low center back to the west here. Frontal system winds gusting to 60 miles an hour over the western Aleutians, advancing eastward here. Otherwise, diminishing winds, still windy across the Alaska Peninsula, but those winds coming down with the showers diminishing. Not bad here over the western part of the state, some variable clouds, showers and rain, or rain, light rain through much of the day here. Tanana Valley area, Nenana, Fairbanks, over toward Eagle, southward toward Tok, and a little bit of light snow areas of the Arctic coast and North Slope. We had this strong storm moving up northward here, bringing the strong 40 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts here across the southeast coast. Earlier, that front's moved through, and tonight, southwest flow, putting a lot of showers back behind here. A band currently moving in, some more, as you can see, a lot of open cell Q out here. That's going to be rolling right on up, enhancing as it hits the terrain. So a general area of showers and rainfall continues, but winds will be much lighter, and the rainfall won't be all that heavy for the North Gulf Coast as well for tomorrow, not tonight, tomorrow, and back in towards south central Alaska. Rain will come in after the dry period we had today and overnight tonight. More showers will come back into the west. And then this big storm out here, storm and gale force westerlies here on the south side of that, pushing that front eastward right into Bristol Bay and over the Alaska Peninsula. Then on Wednesday, that splits into two centers here. One moves to Kodiak Island, wind and rain back into the Gulf of Alaska, heading for the Panhandle and the North Gulf Coast. Pretty potent trough coming southward here will on Thursday bring gusty winds again to the Alaska Peninsula, maybe up to 60 miles an hour in the eastern Aleutians, but that'll be on Thursday. And then for the coast, south winds 20 to 25 knots tomorrow, and the north coast lighter east-southeast at 10 to 15 knots, with those seas around 9 to 10 feet. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, Stevens Passage, south winds 20 knots, 4-foot seas. Clarence Strait, south winds 15 knots with 6-foot seas. And then for the day on Wednesday, small craft advisories here all along the coast. Strongest on the north coast here, east-southeast at 30 knots with 12-foot seas. And the south coast, south at 25 knots with 10-foot seas. Clarence Strait, southeast at 20, seas 4 feet. Southeast 15 for Stevens Passage and Lynn Canal. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow, small craft advisory, southeasterlies 25 knots, seas 4 feet, eastern North Gulf Coast. Southeast winds 20 knots, 6-foot seas, variable at 15 here for the west side. And then westerlies, 25 knot westerlies there for the Kamishak Bay and Barren Islands. Cook Inlet, light north to northeast winds at 10 knots with seas 2 feet. And then those increase dramatically on Wednesday here. South of the Forelands, the southern Cook Inlet, gale warnings, north winds 35 knots, seas building to 10 feet. Northern Cook Inlet, north at 25 with 7-foot seas. Northeast gales for Kamishak Bay at 40 knots. Easterly gales here for the North Gulf Coast and the Barren Islands at 35 to 40 knots with seas 10 to 15 feet. And gale warnings also for Prince William Sound, east winds 35 knots, seas 9 feet. And for Kodiak Island, tomorrow westerlies 15 to 20 knots, seas 3 to 4 feet. Then we've got good small craft advisories and minimum gales here coming into the Alaska Peninsula. South to southeast winds 30 to 35 knots, and southeast 30 knots for Bristol Bay with 4-foot seas. And then for the day Wednesday, as that front pushes eastward here, we've got strong west winds for the Alaska Peninsula, 25 to 45 knots, with seas up to 22 feet here, and west winds only at 15 knots for Bristol Bay, but Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, north at 30, east side of Kodiak Island, west-southwest at 20 knots. And we've got gale and storm warnings out for the eastern Aleutians tomorrow for west to southwest winds 40 to 50 knots with seas up to 21 feet. Storm warnings here for the central and western Aleutians, westerlies 45 to 50 knots, and those seas running 21 to 25 feet. And then for Wednesday, still looking at some pretty good westerlies, but coming down, especially out here to the west, 25 to 35 knots now. And then Adak and Atka, minimum gales west 35 knots. Still strong for the eastern Aleutians, in some cases high-end gales and storm force or storm warnings. Westerlies 40 to 50 knots, seas up to 26 feet. And for the southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, southeast 30 knots there. And good gales, full gales almost for the Pribilofs. Anyway, southeast at 40 knots, seas 13 feet. East at 40 knots with 15-foot seas there for St. Matthew Island. East at 25 for the Yukon Delta coast. East at 20 for St. Lawrence Island. Norton Sound just 10 knots out of the southeast. Then those will pick up to northeast at 20 here for Norton Sound on Wednesday. St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta coast, Kuskokwim Delta coast, all northeast at 25. Seas 5 to 7 feet. Pribilofs north 25 knots. Seas just under 20 feet. And north at 30 knots with 14-foot seas for St. Matthew Island. Up along the, for the Chukchi Sea tomorrow, we've got south to southwest winds at 10 knots, and the western Arctic coast west at 10 to 15 knots. Seas 3 to 4 feet there, southwest at 15 for the central coast, with 4-foot seas and 2 to 3-foot seas for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast of those winds west-southwest at 10 to 15 knots. And then for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast on Wednesday, not too bad. West to southwest winds 5 to 15 knots, seas up to 3 feet. And west-southwest 15 knots for the western and central coast with 3-foot seas. And for the Chukchi Sea, north to northwest winds at 10 to 15 knots with seas 2 to 3 feet.